The students, good morning. How are you? I hope you all are very fine. Let's come to the point. Today I am going to teach you the chapter The Crisis of the Democratic Order of your Political Science, part 2nd, 6th chapter. At that time there was a general atmosphere of the dissatisfaction with the prevailing economic situation all over the country in the early years of the 1970s. In this chapter, we will discuss about the emergency period, how it was imposed. We will know about the causes, consequences, and the legacy of the democracy. Between the 1973 and 1975, a series of events brought new challenges to the India's democratic politics. We will know about all these. First of all, we will know about the economic context. In 1971, Lok Sabha elections were held. Major political and military crises were also there. There was the war between the India and Pakistan, and near about 80 lakh of the people refugee came from Bangladesh to India. There was a great burden on the India also. Already there was the crisis of the resources in our country, and this is also the great burden on the government. And US against it and against India stopped helping India at that time. It was not giving any aid to India. It refused to help the India. Prices increased by 23% in 1973 and 30% in 1974. Everywhere there was a lot of crisis, especially in the Gujarat and Bihar. In Gujarat, there was a great inflation in the food products, grains, pulses, vegetables. People were suffering a lot. There was a great pressure on the government to having a fresh election, and under the pressure, there was the fresh elections were conducted because of the agitation of the students. Same thing was happening in the Bihar also. The same condition was there. There was also the drought and famine occurred. Because of that, public was suffering a lot. And the youth generation requested to the JP, Jayaprakash Narayan, who left the politics and became the social worker. Okay, you have to lead our agitation against the government. He took the promise from the students and the people who were involved in the agitation कि movement must be based on non-violence and it will be the nationwide movement, and they promised to do the same. There was judiciary problems were also a lot of you know conflict between the judiciary and government issues were there. For example, can the parliament abridge fundamental rights? Can the parliament curtail the rights of the property by making an amendment? The parliament amended the constitution saying that it can abridge fundamental rights for giving effect to the directive principles. But the Supreme Court rejected this provision. So there were many issues between the government and the judiciary. Now we will know why the emergency was declared. On actually what happened on 12th June 1975, Justice Jagmohan Lal Sinha of the Allahabad High Court passed a judgment declaring Indira Gandhi election to the Lok Sabha invalid. Actually, Raj Narayan, a socialist leader who pleaded to the High Court that the 1971 election that was fought, it was illegal because Congress, Indira Gandhi used the government property in the campaign that was against the law, against the constitution. And when this verdict came, result came on 12th June 1975. This was the verdict that legally she was no more now MP. Election was illegal, invalid. So naturally, she can't remain on the post of PM as she is not a MP. So, but later, on the request, on the appeal of the Indira Gandhi, it took the stay order for some time. Now we will know about the crisis and response. Jayaprakash Narayan announced a nationwide hartal all over the country. He requested to the railways, police, government's employees also, you should not obey the rules and regulations of the government because everyone was facing the problem. Everybody was not satisfied with the government's development programs because they were not enjoyed what were the aspirations after the independence. Their dreams were not fulfilled. They were facing a lot. Now what happened? What was the consequences about it? Agitation to an abrupt stop. Sticks were banned, opposition leaders were put into the jail, the government suspended the freedom of the press, newspapers were asked to get prior approval of all the material to be published, known as press censorship, after the declaring of the emergency. What happened then? The government banned Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh also. Government made extensive use of the preventive detention, means arrest people who were in claimed to a disturbance. So in this way, there were many restrictions were imposed on the freedom of the public after the emergency declaration that was declared on the 25th June midnight in 1975. Consequences. What were the consequences? The consequences were these: that new changes to constitution, the ruling of the Allahabad High Court, an amendment was made declaring that elections of the Prime Minister, President and Vice President could not be challenged in the court. This amendment was done, and the time period was also increased from 5 years to 6 years. Like this, many amendment has been done after declaring the emergency, and these were mostly in favor of the government. What were the controversies of the emergencies regarding it? Actually, constitution simple mention internal disturbances as the reason for the declaring emergency. Okay, there was the internal disturbances and it is creating the problem in implementing the directive principles. That's why we have declared the emergency. These movements were, becoming the barrier. After the emergency, the CPI felt that its assessment was mistaken. Earlier, it was supporting the emergency declaration. Later, it felt that they did the mistake. JP and many other opposition leaders also felt that in a democracy, people had the right to publicly protest against the government if it is not as per the aspirations of the people. They are facing the problem, so they they have the right to raise the voice against the development programs, the injustice which was happening with them. What happened during the emergency? The emergency to bring law and order restore. efficiency, and above all, implement the pro poor welfare programs. This was started to normalize the situation by the government. The government led by the Indira Gandhi announced a 20-point program. Saha Commission was set up when the Janata Party came in 1977. It inquired, it found that the General Manager of Delhi Power Supply received a verbal order of the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi to cut the electricity to all the newspapers at 2 a.m. on 26 June 1975. That was against the law. Any orders should be given that should be in the written, not verbally. Sanjay Gandhi, the Prime Minister's younger son, did not hold any post, any official position, but he was taking many decisions in the government that was against the constitution. What the lessons we learnt at that time? The first of all, the lesson was it is extremely difficult to do away with democracy in India. Now, it is a dream that India could be remain without democracy. No, never. They understood well. Secondly, internal emergency can be proclaimed only on the grounds of armed rebellions, and it is necessary that the advice to the president to be proclaimed emergency must be given in writing by the Union Cabinet, not verbally. Thirdly, the emergency make everyone more aware of the value of civil liberties. And the court also too have taken an active role after the emergency in protecting the civil liberties of the individual. Earlier it was became very lazy to take the decision against the government. That was not correct, because judiciary is an integral organ, a third organ of the government. It should be strict on the protecting, on the name of the protecting of the constitution, but it failed to do its duty perfectly, but it felt later and it became active. It taught many lessons that it is to be difficult to do away with democracy. It made everyone more aware of the value of the civil liberties. Now the people understood what is the importance of the fundamental rights, of the value of the freedom in the life of the public. Politics after the emergency. Lok Sabha election held in 1977, January. After the 18 months of the emergency, the government decided to hold election. Elections were held in March 1977. Congress party was defeated in the Lok Sabha election first time after the independence. So this was the great changes came into the Indian governments. What were the legacy of the emergency? The legacy of the emergency of 1975 was felt in every spheres of life and the politics, which can be described as a period of constitutional and political crisis to have its origin in constitutional battle over the jurisdiction of the parliament and the judiciary. And also the Congress party now identified itself with a particular ideology, claiming to be the only socialist and pro-poor party. No other party. We have the programs, we have the development programs for the public. Oppositions hasn't. This proclamation was started. And the Congress party, other opposition parties, relied more and more on what is known in Indian politics as non-congressism or Indra Hatao. This was the slogan of the opposition party. And Indira Gandhi raised the slogan Garibi Hatao. This was the competition. And the factored play a major role in elections of the 1977. First time it was happened. So in this way we can say that emergency imposition, that was the great mistake of the Congress party at that time. This was not happened. It should be imposed only in the armed rebellion if there is in any country. According to our constitution, this is the fundamental right to protest against the government. This is the part of the democracy. So it can't be stopped. Fundamental rights can't be abridged. India can't be remain away for much time from the democracy. It understood the great value of the freedom of the country, of the public. So the emergency, which was imposed on 25th June 1975, totally illegal. At that time, it was criticized a lot all over the country and all over the world also. So this was the great mistake of the party. It diminished the name of the Congress party at that time, declined the reputation of the Congress. Still, there is a lot of controversy. It is also blamed, most of the opposition party blamed the Congress party for this. They did this mistake. So this is the stigma on the Congress party. Still, it is facing the problem. After that, many lessons has been learnt by the other opposition party. In this way, the emergency can't be imposed on the country. So I hope you understood this chapter very well. You must read the chapter in detail, thoroughly, with understanding. Rest we will discuss in the class. If any query, you can ask. Thank you. Have a good day.